everybody, Corey here with the Art Archaeologist channel. So I have a bunch of paintings laying around that are unfinished, and this is one of them. This is a poured painting I did, and it got wonky when it was drying, and I watered down the paints just a little too much for it to be right. But it's still beautiful, and so I decided to go ahead and paint some aspen trees on here and take this opportunity to show you how I paint my trees while I'm at it. I'm going to go ahead and use the inspiration of this painting as this being the really dark ground level, and then this being a cloudy night sky, which will be fun because you want to pick a light source in your painting when you're doing something like this so that you can really make it believable. So I'm just using this Craft Smart, and I'm just on poster board using it as my palette as well, and I got a little too much paint on my brush. I like to keep the paint out of the ferrule. So I'm just right now going to block in a few trees. I don't really like this area here, and this seems like a good opportunity for a couple trees here. So I'm going to go ahead and play some music and block in these trees. What I've got so far. I went ahead and put this big tree in because I wanted to block out what was going on the edge of the painting over here, and I'm kind of sorry I put it in, but it's there now, so I'm just going to work with it. A couple of things. I started off with this big angled brush. Okay, it's a flat with an angle on it, and I like those to block in the tree trunks because you can get a little bit more paint going initially, and that makes it easier to block them in anyway. And then as you start doing smaller branches and wanting to come in and fine-tune your trunks, then you'll want to switch to a smaller. This for some reason says 1/4 inch angle. Never seen a brush that size, but that's what this one says. It's very tiny, as you can see, and then you can get more detail. Now this is going to be backlit because I'm imagining the moon is behind these clouds shining out. So I'm going to show you how to backlight shade in a little bit. But I got these brushes. Now if you really want to get detailed on your branches, this is the way to go. These are like small script liner brushes, and I got these. I hope you can see that with the light. These are fingernail brushes that I got on eBay, and they come in a set, and you get quite a few really nifty little brushes for not very much money. I've had these for a long time. I don't think I've paid more than $5 for the set, but you can really get detailed with these. Now I'm not going to do a ton of teeny tiny branches on this painting because I want the background to be able to show through. So I've got these mostly whited in, and earlier as I was saying about the backlighting, it's really important when you go to shade your trees later that they're blocked in as solid white as you can get them. And you know, this is not the most fabulous paint for this job, and I really have yet to find a really good white that I haven't had to do 2 or 3 coats on. So I just look at it as the nature of the beast. If I want to paint trees against a dark background, I'm going to need to throw on a few coats of paint. So as soon as I get these all blocked in, I'll be back and we'll go ahead and start in on the shading and the detail work. So now we're ready to do some detail work on this painting, and I'm trying a new video setup and I'm having a lot of trouble with my lighting situation, so I'm using this video to kind of test out how I have it. I got these hood lights, and if I have them over, then I get this ribbon of shadow. I just don't know how to resolve this. Sorry for the camera shake, but I'm going to keep trying until I get it right. So I'm using Folk Art, Burnt Umber, and Apple Barrel Pavement. I don't buy Apple Barrel anymore just because I don't like it, but I'm using up what I've got, and I do love that color. It's just a dark charcoal gray. Right now I'm going into the Burnt Umber, and how I like to do my aspen trees is, you know, they have those little eye things. So there's the little eye, and then let's say you want to do one on this side. Let's do one here because this has this big kind of, the tree is sticking out right there. So just pull your paint up to the edge. This lighting situation is frustrating for me. I've been trying to watch YouTube videos and figure out how better to do it, and I think I've already got 3 of these clamp lamps. I think I need to buy another one. I keep shaking the darn thing. Alright, I will mess with it later. Okay, and then I like to take quite a bit of paint on my brush. Yeah, these are just these little nail decorating brushes. They're really cool. This is like a script liner that I'm using right now. And then I like to just put some lines together and break them apart, make them all a little different length and whatnot. And then you can also, to add interest, go up on a different part of the tree and do that. I also like to put some stress marks on some of these, and you can come in with some lighter colors and really get detailed if you want to. Now these, I definitely like to shade these here, and then you can really dictate exactly where from the tree this is coming out. But you want to break up your lines. Don't do one single line. And then I definitely get up in the branches and add some color here and there. Anywhere where I really missed, like right here, you can see through the tree trunk, so I'm just going to come in and detail that area to kind of hide that. Oh, I really would love to get through a video without all the barking. I guess I'll just have to start playing music for everything. Okay, I'll be right back. Well, maybe I don't have to go. They love to bark when I'm filming. It's just the way it is. I say that every video. Okay, and then just some extra lines, and you want to detail them all. So I'm going to do what I'm doing here, just the same kind of thing, and it looks really cool. Oh no, here we go. Looks really cool to come in on the bottom and add these here. So let me do some detail and I'll be back. Couple things about the detailing. Now when you start getting into the branches, like this branch here, this one right here, I want it to look like it's coming from the back side of the tree. So you don't want to add all this detail, you just want to kind of ignore it. And I went ahead and drew some painted some straight lines through it. Whoopsie. And then I went ahead and marked the lines coming down like that. So then it's going to look like it's coming from the back side up. And then this is where you get to determine which branches are in front of which. Now this tree right here, I want in front of this branch, but they're intertwining, so this branch is behind, but I'm going to go like this. And then that way you can add to the believability of your piece. This branch really looks like it's actually kind of in between the fork of this, so I'm going to let that happen. I'm going to accentuate it, and then I'm even going to come up here and add a little brown to this. Now I've also got gray here. Got my little water. And so let's add a little gray so you can see. I'm also going to shade these since this is a really black and white monochromatic type picture. I definitely am going to use gray to shadow. Most of the time I use brown, but I want to come in here and really hit these where I already went and just add some gray into these details here. And it's fun because you can pick whatever colors you want to do this, but since I'm doing kind of a monochromatic, I really want to have more drama with it. And I'll use a lighter tone gray to shadow them in the end. I like to put the details in first and then shadow over. So, but this is your opportunity anyway. Like at this branch right here would be nice coming from the back. So we'll just kind of give it a little detail and then come in and work on giving that tree some gray right where that intersection is, just to make it even more look like, okay, it's not coming from the front. And then of course you want brown up here too, you don't want just gray. See, and now we've got just a little tiny bit showing. And I like to break my lines up and kind of just let them flow. Oh, I quit filming a minute ago and my dogs got really quiet. It's like, you guys, they're so quiet until I push record. I don't know what's going on with that. Okay, this one's pretty clear that it's coming out the side here. So I really want to accentuate this part. And then I want to come in here and accentuate this part too. Put a few stress marks there. You can build this up. You can definitely either add some white to the brown you're using or the gray to lighten it up, or you can just use a different lighter shade of paint. But this part's really fun because you do get to determine what's in front and what's behind, and I enjoy this part. So I'm going to go ahead and keep going and I will be back. Okay, so I've got most of the detail in and I put down a little white again. I'm just loading my brush, and I like to pull from the edge of the paint and then spin my brush to load it when I'm using a script liner or a round. And then I get a relatively pointed tip. Okay, and then I did this big blob. I've got some big blobs of brown here and there. So I'm just going to kind of come in and accentuate with the white to kind of break that up a little bit. This is going to get shaded over it, so it will be okay. And I'm just pulling. When I initially do this, I twist, and then after I've got my brush loaded initially, then I just pull paint out of there. And less is more. You just can kind of go in and create a little bit more depth with your white. You don't want to do too much, just the tiniest bit here and there. Just breaking up the clumps pretty much that I had put in. And you can go back and forth with this, and the more you do it, the more depth you'll get. So, you can always push dark colors back. You can just, it's a push and pull kind of a game I play with the paint. Can push things back into the background, or you can pull them back out again, and it's just a matter of adding more paint. See, now that looks a little bit better to me. Okay, so I'm going to let this dry. And once this part is dry, then we will go ahead and shadow the trees, and then it'll be all done. I'll be back. Okay, I've got you really zoomed in so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. And now I'm using Apple Barrel Pewter Gray acrylic paint. And I'm using a very small, flat, let me get up there. Just a little teeny tiny flat brush, and because I want to get the detail. Now I'm wanting these trees to be backlit, which means I need to leave both edges really white. I'm getting my brush, dipping it in the water and getting it very watered down, and then dipping it into the paint. And I always pull from the edge of the puddle of paint, and then you want to flip it back and forth. And so I've got a really wet, saturated brush here. I'm going to take off most of this paint, okay, to work really super dry. And then I'm just going to come in. I kind of treat it like a crayon. I'm going to color this tree trunk in, just making sure I don't hit those edges. And then for this painting, I'm using my fingers to smooth it out. I don't want to have a real sharp edge. So same thing, get my brush real wet. Now this paint is really starting to be wet, my little puddle. So I probably don't need to dip into the water for the next few strokes, but I literally wiped off the majority of the paint off of the brush, and it seems like you're taking it all, but when you get it on the painting, as you can see, you really have a lot of paint still left on there. I want to get pretty close to those edges. And then we're going to do the same thing with the bigger branches, pretty much all of them. So let's just stick with these trunks for now. I really enjoy dry brushing. It's amazing what you can accomplish with the tiniest amount of paint. Now, of course, if I wanted to, since this side of the painting is so much, well, it's really not though, but there's a lot more light on this side than down here, so I could just shade in this whole side and make it to where the light source is coming this way. So you just have to determine where your light source is and then paint accordingly. And I learned with photography, you really look at things much differently when you're looking through the eyes of a photographer. You start looking for cigarette butts and stuff like that in your photographs, or shadows that are cast that don't look right. And it's the same kind of thing when you paint. When you're really love to paint trees and want to get good at it, you just need to start studying trees when you're out. And I like to look at them in different lights. And a lot of successful paintings I'm finding, because I only have so much experience myself, is that there is a lot of literal shading and highlighting in nature. And when we're bold enough to be able to imitate that, then it becomes really beautiful. Okay, so that is how powerful your trees can become, going from this white blob of a trunk to this detailed, really pretty tree. And it helps to kind of tone down some of all of the detailing you put in before. I want to carefully hit these branches, and the branches are not quite as important to me. It's important to get the shading in, but it's also important to keep some of that white. And if you do too much shading, just remember you can come back in with your white and re-highlight again. So all is not lost if you do too much shading. I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit more of this while you watch. I've been watching a new channel, and the gal's name is Shawn Petite. That's her channel. And she is quite the finger painter. She has the most beautiful stuff too. I really love her art. And she's very into finger painting. I'm not as into it. I do it out of necessity. I think she does it more out of desire. But her stuff is really gorgeous. Another good brush, if you're doing gigantic tree trunks, a really good brush to use is a stencil brush. But since these branches are so tight, I wanted this flat so that I could work the angle of it. I love flats, because you can take a flat brush and you can go, and then you can turn it and get a really thin line. So these are so versatile. And one thing about doing trees that I love is sometimes I just drink a little too much coffee in the morning. And it's great for painting branches if you've had a little too much coffee, because you can go, It's kind of funny. So I'm going to go ahead and shade these all in, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I basically got all the shading done, and a lot of what you can do too at the very end is you can come in with dark markers and white marker and highlight with a pen too on the tight detail stuff. Now on these bigger branches, I came in and I really scribbled in some of that dark gray all the way to the edge of the side that the branch is coming out on, because that is going to be deeply shadowed in there. Okay, and then you can come in thinner, much thinner, where you've done, oh well, I guess it helps if you can see me. Let me back this up. You can come in much thinner and go over top of the shading you've done just to enhance it a little bit and make it really dark down the middle. Okay, and then this one, since it's on the edge, I've really darkened the edge. I also darkened the edge of the painting. I went ahead and painted the edge of the canvas along with the branches and everything. So let me back up a little more. That's it. That's pretty much done right there. I'm happy with this painting the way it is. And there's one other thing that came to mind when I was doing this painting, and that is that every painting has an ugly point where you reach a point and you're like, oh, this is terrible, I can't stand it. And that happens to me with darn near every painting I do. So have no fear. Once you start getting shading and highlighting implemented into your paintings, everything changes. You know, and if you do too much shading, you just start to do a little push-pull. So thanks for sticking with me. I will get this lighting situation corrected. I'm not sure how yet I'm going to do it, but I've got to get it figured out. But thank you so much for sticking with me in the meantime, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in real tight and then just slowly move the painting so that you can see the details. This is a really fun painting to do, and you can use so many different dramatic backgrounds. Any background that you can think of can be used. You can do whimsical. You can do anything you wish. So I really hope you give this a try, and I will see you next time. Thanks.